Okay. Okay, we're up to the seventh reading. In Numbers chapter 7, verse 30. Then Moses entered the camp, he and the elders of Israel. And a wind went forth from the Lord and swept quails from the sea and spread them from over the camp about 1 day's journey this way and 1 day's journey that way around the camp about 2 cubits above the ground. So they weren't that far from the water, from the Mediterranean or from the Red Sea. Like, which water are we talking about? But clearly they're not in the middle of the Sahara Desert. They're not in the middle of the Arabian Desert. They're not even that far in the Sinai Desert because they're close to water. Because it says the quails came from the sea. Okay. And he put them around the 2 cubits of layers of quail. The people rose up all that day and all that night and the next day and gathered the quails. Even the ones who gathered the least collected 10 heaps. They gathered them around the camp in piles. The meat was still between their teeth and was not yet finished, and the anger of the Lord flared against the people, and the Lord struck the people with a very mighty blow. But why? 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 What, they didn't say brachot? Like, what's he upset about here? What's God angry about? I don't really have, I mean, I just don't understand this. He named the place Kirvot Hatava, graves of craving, for they buried the people who craved. What? I mean, they were hungry. They asked for meat, they got meat, and then did he kill the ones that were like eating more than they should? I don't understand what's going on here. Why? I mean, he didn't wipe out the whole nation. He killed a few people. Whether they die of overeating. From Kirvoth Hateva, the people traveled to Hatzeroth, and they stayed in Hatzeroth. So now they moved. So Hatzeroth is like also like a courtyard, right? So maybe that's Hatzer. Is it the same word? Moses and Aaron spoke against Moses regarding the Cushite woman who he had married, for he had married a Cushite woman. That is like one of the rare times in the Torah that we mention like something like this. And first of all, Miriam was a Midianite because she was the daughter of Yitro, so was she a Cushite on her mother's side? And like, what does it matter if she's a Cushite? She definitely converted to Judaism. I don't understand this verse at all. Like, why is the Torah telling us this? Like, why? What's this? Like, what's wrong with marrying a Cushite? Okay. They said, had the Lord spoken only to Moses, hasn't he spoken to us too? And the Lord heard. Now this man, Moses, was exceedingly humble, more so than any person on the face of the earth. It's a very, 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 very well-known pasuk that Moses was an anav. He was the most humble. You know, I hope God doesn't punish me for this one, but I think God's exaggerating a little bit. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've not met that many humble people. Most people aren't humble. But to say he's the more humble than anybody on the face of the earth, I mean, you know, we see that the Torah exaggerates. The Torah sometimes speaks in exaggerated language. I'll just put that out. I know people are going to get angry at me about that one. The Lord suddenly said to Moses, Aaron, and Miriam, get out, all three of you, to the tent of the meeting. And all three went out. Get out of here! And the Lord descended in a pillar of cloud and stood at the entrance of the tent. He called Aaron and Miriam, and they both went out. No, wait a minute. So even though God's angry, and Miriam spoke out against her brother, who's the most humble person in the world, we still see that God's still speaking to them. They didn't get their souls cut off, and they didn't get killed. And they didn't lose prophecy. He said to them, please listen to my words. If there be prophets among you, I, the Lord, will make myself known to him in a vision. I will speak to him in a dream. Not so is my servant Moses, for he is faithful throughout my house. When I speak mouth, when I went with him, when this is God speaking, went with him, Moses, with him I speak mouth to mouth in a vision and not in riddles. And he beholds the image of the Lord. So why were you not afraid to speak against my servant? So why were you not afraid to speak against my servant Moses? These people, they should have been afraid to speak out against Moses. Moses didn't speak in riddles. He spoke clearly the word of the Lord. He wasn't dreaming, he wasn't asleep. He got the word of the Lord and he said the word of the Lord. You have a little bit more like, be a little bit more afraid of him, but they weren't. This is his sister and his brother, and specifically this started with Miriam. So I mean, they weren't really afraid of him. The wrath of the Lord flared against them, and he left. Okay, they're not dead, so they're not killed. The cloud departed from above the tent, and behold, Miriam was afflicted with saras, as white as snow. Then Aaron turned to Miriam, and behold, she was afflicted with saras. So saras is like dead. It's like being dead. But why didn't Aaron get it? Why didn't he? He was in on this too. I mean, okay, Miriam started it, but this is one of those verses. It's like one of those problematic periods. One of these things in the Torah that people get upset about. But okay, we'll just leave this aside. Aaron said to Moses, "Please, Master, do not put sin upon us for acting us foolishly and for sinning." Moses didn't do it. God put it. Why is he saying this to Moses? Why is Aaron saying this to Moses? You guys made the mistake. Talk to God. Let her not be like the dead, which comes out of his mother's womb, with half of his flesh consumed. Moses cried out to the Lord, saying, "I beseech you, God, please heal her." The Lord replied to Moses, "If her father were to spit in her face, would she not be humiliated for 7 days? She shall be confined for 7 days outside the camp, but afterwards she may enter." So Miriam was confined outside the camp for 7 days, and the people did not travel until Miriam had entered. Then the people departed from Hatzeros, and they camped in the desert of Paran. Whew, what a parsha.